Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, also known as Scent Nick. Now, as we move into the hotter months, being spring and summer, an aquatic fragrance is essential to the collection, but aquatics oftentimes are kind of boring. There's not much unique about them. But today we are definitely going to go over a more unique take on the aquatic DNA. Today we are looking at Seahorse from Zoologist. Now, this was a recent pickup for me. I've given it a few wears, and it's an odd one for sure. It definitely takes that really aquatic marine DNA and gives it a very natural twist and kind of gives you the perspective of life from a seahorse. Kind of funny. But so this fragrance, is a 60 milliliter bottle. You can find it for around $200. It's not available at discounters from what I understand. Now, the perfumer for this was Julian Rasquinet, so we definitely have some things going for it there. And then the scent profile, like I've already said, is going to be an aquatic marine fragrance. So with that, let's go ahead and just dive into the notes. This one's an interesting one. The top notes are going to be fennel, ambrette, and cardamom. Now, the note that I wish stood out just a little bit more is the cardamom. But what you really get is the fennel and the ambrette. You get this interesting green, kind of herbal, spicy, and musky opening. We've talked about ambrette before being vegetable musk. The cardamom is subtle. It's very there, but it's just, I want more of it. But I think more of it would take away from the aquatic vibe. You're gonna have that just for a little bit. It doesn't last too long. And then you kind of get into the heart of it, which is good. And we'll just get into that. The heart is tuberose, clary sage, and neroli. Now we're talking two white florals here, two drier, more bitter white herbals. Tuberose is spicy, dry, interesting. I think that's an interesting choice of a floral here. It adds just this hint of creaminess, just a very small hint, and a little bit more of that vegetable vibe. Now, the clary sage gives bright, aromatic, kind of spicy florals, and then the neroli is a nice white floral that is kind of soapy as well. These are just giving, I guess, a bit more brightness, a little bit of this spice character. It's kind of hard to really pick one out, over the other. The neroli sticks out to me a little bit because, it's soapy and it's there. The base is where things get even more interesting. You're gonna get an algae accord, you're gonna get ambergris, and you're gonna get vetiver. Now, the vetiver is prominent, the algae is prominent, and the ambergris is prominent. All these things, this is a pretty base heavy fragrance. The other thing, that they're not really saying that's in here is a really heavy dose of Cologne. So that really just strong in your face aquatic molecule. Think of Megamar, that's Cologne. So very watery, green, spicy, a little bit of this white floral touch. You get this kind of inkiness, this metallic kind of touch. The ambergris in this is not real. It's definitely a synthetic thing. It's not the most pleasant, but the overall wearing is interesting. It takes an aquatic DNA, but it literally puts you in the ocean with algae, seaweed, these kind of things, these greener notes, the life of the sea. It's very photorealistic whenever it comes to that. It's unique. I don't know how I really feel about the fragrance, so let's go ahead and just go into the question. So is this one unique? From what I understand, there is redundancy with this one and then something else in the line, as well as a couple other fragrances that it gets close to. So we'll say this is kind of original. The audience for this is unisex leaning masculine, and pretty masculine in my opinion. The age group is going to be, 20 and up. I think this is appropriate for any ages. Not too challenging of a fragrance except for the spices, some of the more interesting characteristics, but a younger person could totally pull it off. Now, in terms of the seasons, this is suited for spring and summer. Being an aquatic, a brighter, lighter fragrance, heat helps it a lot and brings out more characteristics. The occasions, you could wear this as a signature scent. You could wear this leisurely, whenever the heck you want. It is pleasing in the air. I do notice that in the air it's better than it is up close. Up close is when you're gonna get some of those more weird characteristics, but in the air, it's still a very pleasant fragrance. Now, in terms of performance, it's not phenomenal, and that's okay. The longevity, you get about 6 hours. And then in terms of projection, it's kind of strong for about half an hour, and then it really dials back almost immediately, and it sits fairly close to your skin, which I'm also really okay with, which brings me to sprays. I would recommend, probably 5 to 7, upwards of 10 with this one. It's nice in the air. It doesn't get overwhelming by any means. And for a final rating, I'm gonna give this one a 7.1. I think it is a nice blend. I think it's done well, but it's so interesting. And like most zoologists, they're not exactly always the most wearable. This one is more wearable than many of the others in the line. I have struggled with many zoologists in the past, but this one, stands out. There's a couple more that I would like to get at some point, but I think this one is kind of awkward to me. I think it's cool. I think it's, worth getting your nose on at some point, but I'm not saying rush to the store to go smell this. Just in your own timing. If you're interested in a cool, unique aquatic, go smell this one. Guys, if you've experienced anything from Zoologist, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on the line. What stands out to you? And if you enjoyed that video, would you please consider hitting that like button and join our community by hitting the red subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.